G'day boys and girls, today we are looking at the second generation Makita reciprocating saw. Who would have thought, second generation already? Some of you probably haven't even got the first generation where you live yet. That's how quick some of these tools are coming along in some parts of the world. As well as this being second generation, there's also the second generation, this one, second generation impact driver that has been released in Japan and not everywhere else yet. Take a look down in the description if you want to see the review. We'll find out where you can get one of them. But today we're going to put this up against the first generation Makita 40 volt reciprocating saw. This is the JR001G. This is the JR002G. In the States this will be the GRJ01 and the GRJ02. But before we go any further into the depths of these tools, I've got some stuff to give away. I've got some merch here from Makita, a beanie, some socks, handy in New Zealand at the moment, a hat for when summer rolls on round, an enamel cup, old school good old fashioned enamel cup for your tea on those cold winter mornings here in New Zealand. But most importantly, for when it's time to knock off for the day, we've got a bottle opener. Now this giveaway, I'm afraid, is only open to New Zealanders. This stuff's from Makita New Zealand, so I'm only going to give it to people from New Zealand. Sorry guys, it's the first time I've ever done that. All the other giveaways have been international. But anyway, this one is just for Kiwis. There'll be some international ones coming soon, and the details for what you've got to do to win this stuff will be later on in the video, so keep watching. Now if you're a regular to my channel, you would have perhaps seen me review this tool many years ago. When was it? Back in about August 2020. New Zealand's been ahead of the game when it comes to the XGT tools. We've been getting them ahead of most parts of the world, which is really good. I love it. But I didn't love this tool. I bought the 6-piece kit as soon as it was available. It was the first thing that was released here in New Zealand, and it came with this particular tool, and I decided to keep my 18x2 instead, and I sold this. So I've had to borrow one of these for this video to put it up against the new Orbital. That's right, the Orbital AVT JR002G. Now the first thing you might notice about it is it's a bit bulkier here. She's a bit chunkier in the front there. That is to help accommodate the orbital mechanism and the anti-vibration counterbalance going on in here. That has made it a bit heavier than the first iteration of this tool, which comes in at, if I can get it to balance on my scale here, comes in at just over 3.5 kgs, 3.57 kgs, no battery. Whereas the new one, you can feel it's heavier, 3.96 kgs, so 400 grams heavier. So is that extra weight going to translate into this, smashing this? I'm certainly hoping so. We're basically going from bottom Recipro to the top Recipro, or are we? What can we put it up against? Well, the obvious choice is the HiKOKI Godzilla. This has, in many people's opinion, been the best reciprocating saw for the past couple of years. I've certainly never used one that's any quicker. If you want to demolish stuff quick, then this is the tool to go for. And we'll see if the Makita is now the new fastest reciprocating saw in the world. But first let's look at some of the other features and specs of these tools. This is the new one here in the front. Bit bigger, bit heavier, we've worked that out. It has a speed dial, a variable speed dial on the top here. This is a new feature that wasn't present on the JR001G, so it goes from 1 through to 5. The highest speed is 3,000 strokes per minute, which is exactly the same as this one, and exactly the same as the HiKOKI. The lowest on this one is 2,300 strokes per minute. Number 1 on the dial is 1,000 strokes per minute. Number 2 is 1,500 strokes per minute. According to the manual, you'd use those settings for plastics and stainless steel. Then you move up to setting number 3, which is 2,000 strokes per minute. Then 2,500, and then finally number 5 is 3,000 strokes per minute. So you'd use that higher speed for whacking through wood, chopping down branches, hacking through demolition on a house, something like that. And then the lower speeds as you go down for metal, concrete and other substrates. Both tools have a one-handed, just push it in and it locks in place sort of mechanism, and when you want to eject them, they both eject blades as well. On the 01, when you adjust the shoe, it can come all the way out like so. Whereas on the 02, when you release the lever, you pull it out and it only comes out that far. But there's a secret little hidden button here. Looks just like a, just an imprint in the rubber molding, but it's actually a button. When you push that in, you can remove it completely. Slight little change there. Nifty little hidden button. So the speed dial is quite a big difference to this tool. Also AVT, what does that stand for? Anti-vibration technology. So hopefully this vibrates a lot less than the last one and puts the power into cutting instead of into your wrist. And the biggest feature, in my opinion, the reason you would buy this tool over the other one is this little lever that they've got on the side here, because that lever brings this up to the standard of other reciprocating saws, because you've got straight cutting, but with a flick of the switch you've now got orbital cutting. Same as this HiKOKI or Metabo HPT model. So straight cutting, orbital cutting. This has 4 speeds, but they all have the same top speed, and these all have the same length of cut. So 32 millimeters per stroke, or 1 1/4 inches. So this is a very similar tool to the new Makita, but the advantages the Makita have, in my opinion, is the area where you put the blade in, because when you try and put the blade into this, sometimes this pops right inside and you can't even reach it, and you've got to pull the trigger just like that. So, you know, it just went in. You try and push the blade in, the whole thing disappears, and trying to then get it out, impossible. You've got to pull the trigger to get the thing out, and it's really uncomfortable on your fingers. So the Makita one's a lot easier for that, but there is more scope for this jamming up with sawdust and the like. So what's left? Oh, it's got a rafter hook. They've all got one of them. I'm dying to get out there and use this thing, so let's get to it, eh? I've got a bunch of new blades, and we've got some batteries here ready to go, fresh off the chargers. We're doing 36 volt batteries, obviously, for all 3 of the tools, and they are all 4 amp hour batteries. What is that vibrator? A lot of you will know I've had this for a few weeks now, and I've done a lot of testing with timber up against this thing, and as well as the shots you've just seen, I've also tested it with 3 other people. So I wanted to make sure this was faster. So in all the tests I've done with 3 other people, we all agreed that the Makita was slightly faster and slightly less vibraty.
3, 2, 1, go! just the Makita just got it. You want to try it? Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go! It's nice. Oh, it's close. That's good. Yeah. It might be slightly quicker, eh? It's fractionally. Yeah.
But what about cutting metal? If you don't like seeing blades getting tortured, then look away now. 16 mil rebar time. There'll be no orbital action in this test. JR001. JR002. Look at that, just wore the teeth straight off. Absolutely awful. Just destroyed that blade in top speed. Can the HiKOKI do it on the non-orbital fastest speed? Wow, that's destroyed the blade as well. So back to the good old-fashioned 18x2 on its top speed. Look at that. The old-fashioned ones seem to be better than the orbital ones, even when the orbital ones aren't in orbit. Try some hollow tube, eh? Okay, the 01. Now some of you will have written in the comments that I shouldn't have been doing it on such high speed through metal, and I do realize that, but I just wanted to show you the difference between tools and how some tools are better suited to certain tasks and therefore better suited to different people, and how different blades are suited to different tools better than they are to other tools. And so sometimes a really good brand blade on one tool may not work so well on another tool, and vice versa. So you will have seen these two older technology type reciprocating saws did much better through the rebar than these two modern ones did, even though neither one was on the orbital setting. So you'd think when the orbital setting was turned off they would behave the same as these, but they do not. Then when we came to cutting through tube, these did much better than these ones, especially this one. The reason I didn't keep this one was the way that it cut through tube when I first tested it. I hated it. But it all depends on a lot of different factors, as you'll see. Alright, I'll try the 01 with a different blade. Because if we slow this one down, chuck different brand blades on it, you get different results. So these will all do the job, but you have to put them on different settings. These two full speed, flat out, going through rebar, not a problem. This one, the new JR002G, I found that level 2 was about the best. It is a variable speed trigger of course as well, so you can have it on the high speed and just slowly work your way into it and just find the sweet spot of your blade, tool, and yeah, how it's cutting. Right, we've come to that point in the video. If you want some Makita merch and you live in New Zealand, take a look down in the description. There'll be a link to my Instagram channel. There'll be a link to a specific post on that channel. Leave a comment on that post telling me what town you live in, and in about a week or so's time I'll use a random generator thingy to pick one of you out, and I'll send this out to you free of charge. Don't fall for scammers. These are Hebel blocks. It measures 200 this way and 150 this way, and we're going to cut them with these. I'm going to start with the two orbital models. We'll do it on a straight cut and then I'll flick it onto orbital and do it with an orbital. See how quick we can smash through these. Hebel is a super aerated concrete product. 3, 2, 1. And orbital mode. Straight cut. 3, 2, 1. And onto orbital. One straight cut, of course. So what do you reckon? What haven't I told you yet? Well, it does have a light on the front. I don't think I mentioned that. So got a light up there. Also, when it comes to the front, when you put your blade in, you just got to be careful, because with this mechanism it's real easy to push the blade in like so. Pull it back, make sure it's well in there. Then when you release it, you lift the lever and it pops out. If you let go of the lever now, you won't be able to get the blade back in properly. You need to go until you hear it click. Hear that little click? It's now reset itself. So when you put the blade back in, it will go in without having to touch this. But like I say, you release it there, now you can't get it back in. And so if you put it there and you don't pull on it, see, it's not going in. You have to pull that back up, reset it, then pop it back in. So just be aware of that, because if you don't pull it back and make sure the pin pops into that little hole, well... So what about the vibration? Well, vibration's kind of hard to measure properly, the way I'm testing tools anyway, because things jump around if they're not held down properly. Every blade feels different in each tool. The tools all behave different depending on what they're cutting. They all have their little sweet spot, so it's kind of tricky. But this one feels better than the HiKOKI. The HiKOKI sometimes can be a bit brutal on the vibration. 3, 2, 1. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. 2. 1. only me. Good that they don't have much vibration, eh? So overall, is it an improvement on the previous model, the JR001G? Yes, it is. Is it the best reciprocating saw Makita have ever made? Yes, I think it is. So there you go. The GRJ02 or the JR002G, depending on where you live. I'll put some links down in the description. It might not be available where you live yet. With all these 40 volt tools and COVID and everything, it's a bit of a slow rollout on some of this stuff. But you can get it in New Zealand. Handy Hardware have got it in stock. So if you're in New Zealand, check out the link in the description. And I think that's about it, isn't it? I'll go and chop some more shit up and make some more videos. And I'll see you again next week. Cheers.